and welcome to Redheads on Romance, the podcast where Lily, that's me, and Holly,
that's me,
review romance novels and Hallmark movies for our own entertainment and hopefully yours too. So join us for a slightly snarky look at the spicy and sentimental side of Happily Ever After. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Redheads on Romance.
Welcome back. We're so happy to be here.
We are having a nice rainy night here in California, so it's kind of setting the mood for a brooding podcast tonight. But we left off talking about tropes, and we talked about quite a few, but we have even more to go. Hopefully you all like that discussion. I think it's just kind of fun to talk about why they are good or bad in our opinion. Obviously, some people like them and some people don't. But the first one I have for us today is aliens and monsters. How do you feel about that?
Oh, man, I did read, what was it? The Ice Planet Barbarians after a recommendation. And, it was interesting. I don't think it's my thing. I haven't gone back and read any other of I think there are a billion of those books. And monsters, like, what are we talking here, Holly?
Well, I've got a whole nother thing specifying types of weird things. And I should specify too, when I say alien trope, like the love interest is an alien, like the woman is usually human, I guess. And then she's surrounded by aliens or some kind of weird.
Yes, usually with very specific lower regions.
Yes, the anatomy is apparently part of the draw for this genre. And I have only read one. It was a trilogy from a favorite author of mine. And I pretty much follow her wherever she goes. And I never thought she'd go there. And she went there and I tried it. So there were 3. This is a reverse harem author. She had 3 alien guys for her love interests. And it was just weird. I tried really hard. I just could not go there. I read it, but hey.
I'm sorry. That just sounds ridiculous to me. No shade if that's your thing, but not my thing.
And this is not safe for work, but she did commission artwork of the nether regions for each alien. And I looked at it. Okay, I did, but it did not look good to me. So that's a whole nother topic. And then the next sort of related, I've combined into one category is ghosts, witches, fairies, and vampires. I guess Twilight might fall under this.
Okay. All right. I actually can get behind this one. So I think as a young adult genre, I once read one that had like a young girl who was falling in love with, I think, a ghost boy. I mean, it wasn't like the super spicy or any spice, I don't think, but I kind of liked that love story. It was kind of cute. And then I could see vampires being well done, if not in Twilight with the sparkling, but witches, I have read a couple of the witchy ones and I like those. I like magic involved. Usually the main character is a witch who's either kind of a new witch or somehow discovers she's a witch. And she's like, there's some handsome warlock or something. I'm for it.
I figured you would be. I just had a feeling. I've read a couple where they're like throwing in a sly vampire on you and you're not really like seeing it coming and you just kind of, oh boy, it's a vampire. So not my thing at all. The whole like fairy thing is huge right now, but I haven't really read any.
Okay, I started a book that must have been advertised, I think, on Kindle Unlimited or something. And I started it not knowing that it was fairies, or that I guess one of the main male characters was a fairy, or what do they say, fae? And I, honestly, when I found out that part, it kind of killed it for me. I mean, to be fair, if I had gone into the book knowing that, and I was prepared for that, maybe I would have read it, but it just really weirded me out. And I that was an instant DNF for me.
Yeah, and I will say the same author that I read a lot of her reverse harem series, she did her newest one is Witch Boys. It's The Witchwood Boys Are Trending is the first book by C.M. Stunich. And again, like I just end up reading her stuff if it's new because I like her older stuff. And so the three guys go into this haunted woods and get turned into witches, and the girl accidentally gets sucked in and she has to join their coven, and it's a whole thing. I don't know. I guess this is a genre, and I, again, like the aliens, I had never been there before and I will never go there again. I just like humans. I don't know. I'm just anything. It's magic and there's this and that and it's not human. It's not for me, but no shade to anyone who likes it at all. But yeah, it's just, oh, sorry, kitty. Then the next one I have is Secret Baby. Have you ever read A Secret Baby?
I have not. Could you explain to me what exactly that means?
So I've read like one or two, probably just one. To the best of my knowledge, because it's pretty common, but I don't like it. So I'm not like super familiar, but basically she has his baby. He doesn't ever know about it. So they're apart for whatever number of years and somehow reconnect. So it's a little bit of a second chance trope as well. And, you know, it's just kind of sucks to like never tell someone that they have a baby out there. I don't know. I just can't really get past that.
Yeah, that seems kind of messed up, because if there was any chance for them to rekindle later because they're not a total, piece of crap person, then why would you keep that a secret from them? And also, I feel like it kind of, I don't know, in my fantasy time, I don't want to, think about being a mom. I'll save that for my real life, which is awesome, but not what I want to fantasize about.
Yeah, I completely agree. And just the way they write about babies and parenting, it's all so like non-realistic to me. So yeah, I just am always like, that's not how that works. And I don't know. So yeah, this is not for me. Okay. Another like super, super hot trope of the moment or the last several years is millionaire, billionaire, gazillionaire. So the guy is like so wealthy. And this was part of 50 Shades of Grey. Christian Grey is a billionaire and he's hot and he's single and blah, blah, blah. So I guess this is just supposed to be like the cherry on top of like male desirability, but it's so overdone.
I mean, it's kind of a modern fairy tale too, right? I mean, instead of princes everywhere, which are a little hard to write about and make up for a billion fake countries, although people do it, I guess, all the time. It's like, well, that's a more realistic scenario that this amazing billionaire could somehow fall in love with you, and then your instant riches just by him finding you attractive instead of all the models he clearly could be pulling in with that. I have read some of these. They are all over Kindle Unlimited. Usually on the cover, there's some guy holding a tie, or, I don't know. I think I saw a title, maybe Beautiful Bastard. I don't know if that's a billionaire one, but it seemed like it. Sometimes they go with the fake, be my fake girlfriend trope with that a lot. So I have read some of those. I think those are okay. They're kind of almost in line with the work romances a lot of times, a lot of enemies to lovers in them. So yeah, I can get behind those.
And again, this is almost like impossible to get away from. You could just be reading for dark romance or some other thing that you like, and they just all are billionaires or heirs to a billionaire fortune or whatever. But it's almost unavoidable. It's like a little too overdone for me, but yeah, I get it. Like the fairy tale, everyone wants to be rich. Like it's just kind of, why not? Why not have him be a billionaire? One interesting one I read that put a twist on it was the billionaire women. So, me, I like the reverse storylines a lot. So I loved the idea that like the girlfriends were all billionaires. So it was kind of like how they found love with just whoever. It could be a blue collar guy. And so I thought that was a really cute way to like flip it on its head. The next one I have here is the man horror playboy, allergic to commitment, sworn off love forever. I love this trope. If you give me the ultimate playboy who was never going to like settle down, I am all in. This is my favorite. How do you feel?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm actually for it too. And I think the whole desirability of it is like, what woman wouldn't want a man to change for her because she's just so special and so amazing. And yeah, you turn this guy who's used to getting whatever he wants and everything and basically have him sobbing that you're about to leave him or something. You know, I could see the appeal for that. So why not? It's kind of fun. As long as he's not so much of an ass that I like just hate him. He's got to have some reasonable deniability for his behavior.
And usually they have a ton of charm, so they definitely have their upside. But yeah, the girl has to not like him. That's kind of how the only way this is going to work, because this guy just has had women throwing themselves at him his whole life. And the one girl who is not affected by his charm, it like bothers him. And that's why he starts rethinking everything.
Of course, underneath, you know, clearly she does like him because she falls for him and ends up with him at the end. But on the surface, she's like, what an asshole playboy. I'm not interested.
Yep. Can't get enough. This is my fave. The next one I have is insta-lust, insta-love, whatever, instant connection. I don't like this as much because if you want like that real like satisfying slow burn where they get together at the end, if they are just super googly eye from the beginning, it's to me kind of harder and more contrived to like draw out the full length of the book. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with that. It kind of takes the fun out of it for me because kind of like I described in the last podcast, I like that falling in love. How's it going to happen? And, you know, with the enemies to lovers, you're just kind of like, ooh, how are they going to like win the other person over? Or how are they going to admit to themselves they like each other? So to have them like each other out of the get-go, it just kind of loses the appeal to me. It just doesn't give me that full, I don't know, intensity that I like.
Agreed. I think we don't agree on many, but we like that. Grumpy Sunshine. I feel like this is the latest thing also that is absolutely everywhere. The man is grumpy. He's so grumpy. Why is he so grumpy? I'm bored of it. I like, stop being so grumpy. Like and then he's a teddy bear on the inside, but I don't know. It's just too much for me.
No, I don't like that either. But I also think in real life, I like the charming, fun, happy. I don't know if people know my husband. He's kind of a fun, happy person. So the whole being miserable thing, I don't find that attractive. And you having to fix the person or change the person or find them their happiness, that's just, that's a waste of time. Just go read something better.
And I should mention the sunshine part of the Grumpy Sunshine is the girl. So she's, you know, la, 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 everything's so great, you know, like heads in the clouds, like chipper and upbeat, and Grumpy Grumperson is trying to bring her down.
I did read a book that was kind of the opposite of that, talking about your favorites of opposites. I think it was Window Shopping by Tessa Bailey. It was actually, the girl wasn't quite grumpy, but she was kind of more edgy, kind of had a past, and I don't know, wasn't quite very bubbly or anything. She was kind of more moody, maybe more goth. I don't know. And then the guy she ends up meeting is a very bubbly, happy billionaire, I'm pretty sure, of course, who is big on Christmas and dressing up all cutesy for it. And it was actually a cute story. I enjoyed it. So I could go that way. You know, you could see her, but you're from her perspective. You could see why she's unhappy and why she's trying to build this life and how he kind of brings her comfort and stuff. But the opposite, boring.
You bring up a good point. The reverse Grumpy Sunshine I actually like a lot. Shocker. I think I've only read one that described itself that way in the book description, reverse Grumpy Sunshine. But yeah, I'm all for that just because it's different. Next one I have is BDSM and or sex club. For some reason, everyone's going to a sex club. There's one around every corner. They own the sex club. They meet at the sex club, whatever. Like, is this a thing? Like, are these just out there everywhere? What's going on?
I think we're reading very different books because I don't think a single book I've read has mentioned a sex club once. Doesn't surprise me, though. The BDSM, I think the only one I read like that was 50 Shades of Grey, and that was just because it was so, a big deal at the time when that came out. But no, I don't think that's really my thing. I don't go for those. It's not really the same love story for me. I guess the characters could still have their love story, but I don't, it's not my thing.
Well, I've read about half of the Salacious Players Club series by Sarah Kate, which I've been enjoying. So these childhood college friends, whatever, all guys except for one female, decide to start their club called the Salacious Players Club. And it's got BDSM rooms, voyeur rooms, like you can only imagine what everything that's going on in this place, but they're all like single when it starts, and it's like the love story for each of the owners, and how it's sort of interconnected to the club, but not like exactly. I don't know. So it just seems weird to me. Like they just act like these are just everywhere, and that's not what I'm aware of, but who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Next one I have is sex worker, aka like escort, male or female. I've read a few like male escort books that I really enjoyed. Again, it's like the opposite of what you're expecting. You're always expecting it's the female to be the escort. And so if it's the guy, I tend to enjoy that more. Although I did read a poorly written one that I can't remember the name, but I'm not going to shout it out because I didn't like it. But I did read one that I liked a lot. I think it might be The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. Is that? Yeah. So that one, it's just like the guy is so likable. I think you've read this too, and this might be like the only book we've ever both happened upon independently and both read it. And we both liked it.
Oh yeah, I was actually going to bring this one up when you brought up this trope because I don't think I'd read one where the woman is the escort or whatnot. But I read The Kiss Quotient, and I wouldn't think I would have liked one with a male escort. But yeah, this one won me over. I liked her character for the most part. His character was super hot. He was an Asian main character. He had tattoos in the book, which I also didn't think I would totally be into, but he was so great and he was so nice to her, and he had this whole backstory about why he does this because he's also like a tailor or something. So yeah, I actually really enjoyed this one. I wouldn't think that would be a go-to, and I haven't sought out any others with this trope, but I recommend that one, The Kiss Quotient.
And I liked this so much that I did seek out if this was like a common trope to try to find more, and it's really not. There are a couple, like I found that one that I didn't like at all. I think there's just not a lot out there. So again, writers, if anyone is listening, please give us more like reverse twist storylines. That's my personal request. Okay, so the next one I have is historical, and this is like its own entire world of books. I've read a few. I know some people, that's just their thing. That's what they want. That's all they want. For me, it's like 1 out of 50 books or less. Like, I'm just not that into it. What do you feel about historical?
Same. The only historicals I remember reading, I mean, besides like, I guess Pride and Prejudice, but I don't know if that counts. But I started reading the Bridgerton books after Bridgerton came out on Netflix because I was curious. So yeah, I read those, but I wouldn't go out of my way to read this trope. It doesn't have to be a historical thing. I think a long time ago, I might have read a book where the girl goes back in time. It's not Outlander, but it was similar to that and fell in love with someone from the past. And I think that was kind of cute. But it's not my thing to like seek out.
And most of these are about England. I forget what the time period is called. Regency England. Yeah. So there's a very specific like kind of clothing, and somebody owns all the land that the farmers work on. And either like the woman is a farmer or the guy is, or, somebody's usually from the land ownership rich side. So that's usually kind of the setup for it, which kind of leads me into the next one, which is royalty. This could be modern, but more often it's more historical. Sometimes it's a secret that they're royal that doesn't come out till after the love has been connected. So I don't know. I haven't read that many of these. What do you think about royalty?
It goes back to the fantasy, like fairy tale kind of thing a little bit. Even I think I've more seen it in like Hallmarky movies than anything else. I don't look for it. I think I want a slightly more realistic. I mean, I guess we were talking about witches and stuff earlier, but I think a lot of what I read is more typical office romances or real life situations. So I don't think the Prince one makes a whole lot of sense to me, or the royalty one. I mean, I guess if it was well written, it wouldn't be terrible, but it's been done a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I prefer it, I guess, in a like cheesy Hallmark movie. I don't search this out at all. I've read a couple, like I said, but it's just not doing it for me. I think no discussion of tropes would be complete without amnesia trope, just because I always hear about it. But for some reason, I never read anything with an amnesia trope. Have you ever?
No, I don't think I've read anything like that. I've seen it in Hallmarky-esque movies or like Netflix movies recently. I think that Lindsay Lohan one had some of the amnesia. I don't think I like that as much because I think it takes away the agency, the actual falling in love kind of thing. Because if someone doesn't even remember who they are, even in some circumstances, it's kind of weird to fall in love and have a relationship with them. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the one that I read, like if she really did know him before the amnesia or not. I can't even remember. But yeah, usually you wake up not remembering anything, and they're kind of trying to pull one over on you and tell you you're this and you're not really that. But I don't know. Yeah, it's just, I'm not seeking this one out. Then I sort of have this under forbidden, or, the most common example is brother's best friend. Like, oh, we need to stay away from each other. We can't be together. And I just don't see why that example of brother's best friend is like so off limits and forbidden. Like, it's not, right? Like, I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I guess we'd need a man's perspective, because maybe he'd be like, don't touch my baby sister kind of thing. I don't know. That's kind of weird. You'd think you'd want, if he's such a good friend, you could potentially be a brother-in-law or something. But I don't know. Maybe you risk ruining that relationship by going there. I don't know.
Have a brother. How would you feel about this? Since you have a brother and I don't, do you think if you were like to fall in love with his best friend, would he have a problem with it?
This is so hard to picture because I know all of his friends, and that's not going to happen. I mean, anyway, but no offense to them if they ever hear this. It's probably mutual, but I'm trying to think if there's ever a point. I mean, my brother's so much older than me too, so it's not like I was constantly like, oh, his friends are hot. We also hung out with a lot of nerds, so
that's okay. I just was wondering. Then we've got to the sports star, rock star. I kind of put that in the same bucket. Sports star is I think the hottest like emerging trend is like hockey romance and baseball, but a lot of hockey. And I don't like sports. I don't want to read about your hockey game for 3 pages between scenes. Like, I get it. The guy should be more like tall and fit and young and, you know, have that like sports star or rock star desirability, but we just sound like downers. But I just doesn't like do much for me.
No, same. I don't watch or follow any sports, and I think because of that, I acknowledge that they're amazing athletes and stuff, but I don't have that same kind of hero worship, I guess, because I can imagine if it was something else, like, I don't know, something I was interested in, and it's like, oh wow, they're like the best in their field, or you know, this or that, but sports just doesn't do it for me. In fact, every time I'm on like Kindle Unlimited or something and I see another freaking cover with a hockey stick on it, I'm just like, like, I don't want to read any of these.
Yeah, that's a good tip off to us to stay away from that book. So next one I have is Small Town. I do read a lot of these, even though I don't really like the small town in and of itself, but they have a lot of like interconnected series where there's 4 brothers or 6 siblings and they're all still living in the small town, and one that went away comes back, and you know, they're all finding love with random people that come through the small town. I guess it's just kind of a whole vibe. I mean, it just depends how it's written.
Yeah, I haven't read, I don't think, any of the small town kind of books. I see it a ton on like the Hallmark movies, and I enjoy it when I watch that, even though small town life is just not for me. I'd never want to live in a small town. Like, when I think of the logistics of actually living in a small town, no offense to those who do, but I'm not like a big city girl. I'm definitely a suburban mom over here, but it's just not for me. Like, I feel like there's always this lesson like, oh, you big city people don't know how to slow down. And I'm like, well, maybe you should speed up a little. I don't know. It's not my thing. I do like when they usually set them in the fall settings in the movies and stuff. I think it's kind of cute and just that little situation. But the books, I don't think I've ever touched one.
It just reminded me that the last book I read was a small town series. However, I jumped into this series at number 7. They're all like standalones, but you miss so much if you come in at number 7. It was The Hearts of Sawyer's Bend is a series by Ivy Lane. And I don't remember why I read this, but it was a second chance romance, which I already hate, and I missed so much context by missing the first 6 books. There's another small town series I read that I did like and read most of them, and I just have so many books on my Goodreads that I can't find it. But so yeah, for me, sometimes I want to like get involved in it and read them all, depending on, does this sister sound like a person whose story I want to read next, or that brother? So again, kind of just depends. Another one, and these two are sort of connected. I've got Bully and High School, which tend to go together because bully romance doesn't really apply after high school much, in my opinion. But I know you hate these, but it is more on the dark side. Like, she falls for her high school bully. So there is some like trigger warning usually involved in that, but it's kind of that, again, dark romance. It's like bad people. That's the whole point.
Yeah, I want to make it very clear that this isn't like the typical, like, I don't know, movie storyline where it's just, oh, he bullied her in high school a little bit, and then as grown-ups they fall in love, and it turns out he's not a total dick and he had some trouble at home or something, and then they fall in love as adults. This is like really mean, terrible bullying. Like, this is like the dark romance thing. I don't like the whole dark romance aspect of the bullying. It just, no. The man should treat you right. Like, the enemies to lovers, he's not being mean to you. He's just kind of a dick in general. Like, the bullying is just too much.
Yeah, so I'm here for it if like that one author that I like that does reverse harem. She has written 2 series about these. The Adamson All Boys Academy and oh gosh, what's the other one? But anyway, her name's yes, and I had Lily read Elite something, but yeah, so I think I had you read that one.
Yeah, I want to make it clear I know what these books are like because I read it on Holly's recommendation. I would not search these out. And after I was like, Holly, what did you make me read? I couldn't even read. Like, she's like, oh, read more of the series. Like, it'll get better eventually. No, absolutely not.
And again, this was a reverse harem. So like, it wasn't just the one like asshole guy. It was, multitudes of them, but yeah, she wasn't into it. I thought the story was good, but I like the dark romance. Here's another one that just keeps like sliding in left, right, and center everywhere. Nanny and Single Dad. I mean, it's so predictable, but again, it kind of depends how it's written, but it's also kind of gross in a weird way. Like he's your employer and taking advantage of you, even though maybe you want him to, but the girl's probably like 22 and the guy's probably at least 35. So that always creeps me out, the age gap. So
yeah, that's kind of problematic because again, like your job's based on the situation and I don't know, the single dad thing. It's in a lot. It's in a lot of Hallmark movies too. And I'm just not that interested in it. Again, children are great in real life. They're tiring, but they're awesome. But I don't need to read about that in my free time. I'd like to not do that.
I hear you. The last one I had here is Motorcycle Club, which we touched on in part 1. Again, I'm not like normally a fan of this, but my favorite author had a Motorcycle Club series, so I read it. And this also had like kind of a creepy age gap where she was like 17 or something and they were like 30, and so that was like icky and I couldn't really get over it. I guess this is just like a fantasy for some girls. They love motorcycles and tattoos and bad boys, and the guys are very grumpy and gruff and she has to tame them or whatever. But yeah, I'm not going out of my way for this trope, but hats off to you if you are.
Yeah, I'm not really into the bad boy vibe typically. And honestly, the real motorcycle gang people I've ever seen, you're usually like overweight, old, balding men. Like, I hate to say that, I'm sure there are probably some hot guys out there who motorcycle, but that's what I picture. Like, yeah, just not interested.
Yeah, when you say Motorcycle Club, I'm picturing a man with a gray beard 2 feet long is just kind of what comes to mind. So trying to make this like the epitome of hotness, that is a tough sell for me. We're kind of out of time, but I just thought, should we touch on like male main characters? What do we look for? What do we like? What's common? I just thought this would be like a short discussion we could have. I'm just a little bit over it, but like, why do they all have to be over 6 feet tall? Why do they all have to have 6-pack abs and tattoos? And they always have brown hair and blue eyes, like always. They always have stubble, not like clean shave, not a beard, but they have stubble. We don't even need to describe what's going on like below the waist because it's always just beyond anything you've ever seen in your life and like will satisfy any woman to her heart's content. Do you like that? Is that what you're looking for in a book? Or would you... There was one book I ever read where the guy described his abs as heating pad abs, and I loved it because he was a nerd, and it was great.
Okay, now, see, this is where we disagree, because, again, this is fantasy, and I would like to picture a very attractive man, because the whole point is these storylines should be men that maybe not as obtainable, although my husband is very attractive, I will say. But I don't want to picture a really scrawny guy or an awkward guy or a blobby guy, because that's not as exciting in a fantasy world for me.
I guess, okay, it's just like, why do they have to be 6'4" or 6'5"? Could they just be 6 foot even? Could they would never be 5'11". Never. Could they just be like 6 foot even? Could they not have like chiseled muscles to the point of like, you know, they're like cutting things with how sharp their muscles are like carved into their body? Because these guys aren't at the gym. Like, maybe 5% of the books the guy is ever mentioned as like having a gym hobby or habit, like where he's working out. It's always like they just happen to be in this phenomenal shape without doing anything. I think that's what bothers me.
Okay, well, no. So, I mean, like, the ones I read, they usually talk about the man going to the gym a lot or whatnot. You know, they give some sort of excuse for it. No, he doesn't have to be 6'4" or whatever, especially because I'm, you know, I don't know. I'm like a fun size something. I don't know. Definitely doesn't have to be, but I think the average woman seems to be going after these tall guys. I think if you can see a lot of men complaining about women's height restrictions on dating apps, so it must be a common thing. Plus, you can, you know, make most women readers fit under 6'4", and they could all imagine that they're with the guy instead of, you know, if you have one woman who's like, I don't know, 6 feet, it makes it a little harder. I don't know. Yeah, maybe they don't have to be like, what did you say? Slicing things with their chiseled muscle. But I do like a description of a nice body. Dark hair, light eyes often are one of my favorites. And again, like you point out, that's almost every book. I don't think I've read one where they describe a man with blonde hair or something, unless he's like an unpleasant character, like the less desirable option. I don't know why that is. And, you know, I think I've been seeing more Asian main characters, which has been nice because that's also a type of mine. So yeah, I don't know. I like them a little more fantasy looking in my stories.
Well, I definitely want their face to be attractive. And, you know, if that's described as like, you know, they're super hot, their face looks good, like that's enough for me. But that is not the fantasy, like you said, that people want. I have read, since I've read so many, a couple where the guy had blonde hair. So that is very rare, I would say, in the single-digit percents of the books. But yeah, dark hair, like intense blue eyes, glacier blue eyes, blah, 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 blah. Very common and just not, again, not realistic to life as far as I'm aware. So... yeah, I get it. Like it's the fantasy. If you're going to invest the time and try to like, you know, get women all hot and bothered with your character, then you just want to go for what ticks the most boxes of the most people, I suppose. Rich, tall, handsome, in super good shape. So I get it. I do. But it's just kind of nice every once in a while to have one come like out of nowhere being like a slightly more normal type of person, but
everyone could get that in real life. That's not fun.
Okay, so we can agree to disagree on this one. That's fine. But anyway, thank you for joining us for our latest episode, and we will see you next time.